Greetings! Mantaray79 here, and welcome back to another deck profile video for the Cardfight Vanguard trading card game. Now, in today's video, the deck profile I'm going to be making one for is a D standard formats, Dragon Empires, Dragonic Overlord the End with cards from D-BT12, Evenfall Onslaught. Alrighty, let's begin. First up, the Ride deck. And now for the Ride deck. For the cards in this Ride deck, we're playing 1 Grade 0 Lizard Runner Undu, 1 Grade 1 Embodiment of Armor Bar, 1 Grade 2 Dragonite Nehalem, and 1 Grade 3 Dragonic Overlord the End. The Grade 0 Lizard Runner Undu, starting unit. Its skill, auto, when this unit is written upon, if you went second, draw a card. So for Undu, it's the main starting unit to play in this deck. Just by riding on top of it, with its skill, you can draw a card as long as you're the second to go in the game. The Grade 1, Embodiment of Armor, Bar, its skills, first skill, auto. When this unit is written upon by Dragonite Nehalem, cost, Counterblast 1. If the cost been paid, search your deck for up to 1 Grade 1 card, reveal it and put it in your hand and shuffle your deck. Second skill, auto, as a rear guard, once per turn. When your Vanguard's attack hits, this unit gets plus 5,000 power until end of turn. So for Bar, it's the main Grade 1 to ride in this deck. Its first skill, just by riding Dragonite and Nehalem on top of it, by paying the cost of Counterblast 1, you can search your deck for any Grade 1 for specific card and add to your hand. Then shuffle your deck after. So for this first skill, it's a good way to secure a specific Grade 1 you wish to add to your hand to use later on, like a Perfect Guard or a specific Grade 1 whose skill you can use later in the game. And the second skill, as a rear guard, as long as your Vanguard hits, it gets plus 5,000 power. So this second skill, Bar can serve as a possible 13,000 point attacker from the front row or 13,000 point booster from the back row. The Grade 2, Dragonite Nehalem. Its skills, first skill, auto. When this unit is written upon by a unit with Overlord in its card name, call this card to the rear guard circle. Second skill, action, as a rear guard, once per turn. If you have a Vanguard with Overlord in its card name, cost, Soul Blast 1. If the cost been paid, this unit and all of your Vanguards get plus 5,000 power until end of turn. So for Nehalem, it's the main Grade 2 to ride this deck. Its first skill, just by riding a Overlord on top of Nehalem, you'll be able to superior call your Dragonite Nehalem from your soul to the rear guard. Thus, with this first skill, it'll secure yourself a Dragonite Nehalem, your rear guard, whose skill can later be used on your Vanguard Overlord later on. And the second skill, just by soul blasting one card, your Vanguard Overlord and Nehalem get power. So with this second skill, it's a good way to not only increase your Vanguard's power, but to also turn your Nehalem into a 15,000 point attacker from the front row. And the best part is this skill is semi-stackable, though not by itself. If you're the type to play multiple Dragonite Nehalems in your deck, as long as you've managed to secure multiple ones in your rear guard and don't mind paying a Soul Blast 1 for each one, it's possible to at least keep stacking power into your Vanguard Overlord. The Grade 3, Dragonic Overlord, the End, skills, first skill, continuous, as a Vanguard. During your turn, if your soul has a Dragonic Overlord, this unit's drive cannot decrease from card effects and it gets plus 5,000 power. And second skill, auto, as a Vanguard, once per turn. At the end of the battle, this unit attacked, cost, Counterblast 1, discard 2 cards from your hand. If the cost been paid, stand this unit and it gets drive -1 until end of turn. So for Dragonic Overlord, the End, it's the main Grade 3 to ride this deck. Its first skill, as long as you've got a standard Dragonic Overlord in the soul, it can get plus 5,000 power and cannot have its drive checks reduced during your turn. So for this first skill, it's more like a cross-ride skill from the original series. As long as you either ride the End on top of Dragonic Overlord or have any cards that let you add Dragonic Overlord into your soul after getting the End to your Vanguard, this first skill will more or less make it possible for you to not only have a little extra power to work with, but to also secure 2 drive checks for each of Overlord's attacks. And the second skill, after attacking, regardless of hits or not, as long as you don't mind paying the cost of counterblast when discard 2 cards from hand, you can stand Overlord with a -1 drive. So for the second skill, it's a basic restanding skill for the Dragonic Overlord series. And the best part about this second skill, it's comboable with the first skill. For the first skill, as I mentioned before, as long as Overlord's in the soul, your drive checks cannot be reduced. So as long as you've got Overlord in the soul when using this second skill, you will not have to count the -1 drive. So for both of Dragonic Overlord, the end attacks will have twin drive, thus securing the chance of getting more triggers or to simply restock your hand with more cards. And with that, we just about covered the deck's right deck. And now let's get on to the main deck. And now for the Great One lineup. For the Great Ones of this deck, we are playing 3 Great One Red Jewel Beast Garnet, 2 Great One Ephestio Dragon, 3 Great One Twin Buckler Dragon, and 1 Great One Blitz Order Elementaria Sanctitude. The Great One Red Jewel Beast Garnet. Skill Auto. When this card is placed on the rearguard circle or on guardian circle, cost. Put a total of 2 cards from soul or drop that were in the right deck into the right deck face up. If the cost been paid, perform one of the following according to the circle this unit is on. If it is on the rearguard circle, draw 1 card. If it is on the guardian circle, it gets plus 15,000 shield until end of battle. So for Garnet, a pretty good card to play in your Dragon Empire Nation decks with skill. As long as you've got your right deck cards in either your Vanguard, Soul, or Drop Zone, when you either call or guard with Garnet, you can pay the cost to choose either one of 2 effects, either to draw more cards or to turn your Garnet into a potential 20,000 point shield on its own. The Great One, Ephestio Dragon. Skill Auto as a rear guard. At the end of the battle, this unit boosted a Vanguard. If the boosted unit is stand, cost Soul Blast 2. If the cost is paid, choose one of your opponent's front row rear guards and retire it. Choose one of your Vanguards and it gets plus 5,000 power until end of turn. So for Ephestio Dragon, it's a very good card to play in your Dragon Empire Nation decks, especially for the Dragonic Overlord series. For its skill, after boosting in a Vanguard, and if that boosted Vanguard restands later, by paying the cost, not only do you get to clear your opponent's field of rear guards, but you can also give your Vanguards a little extra power to work with for its second attack or higher. The Great One, Twin Buckler Dragon, Sentinel, Perfect Guard. Skills, first skill, Continuous Sentinel. You may only have up to 4 cards of Continuous Sentinel in a deck. Second skill, Auto. When this unit is put in the Guardian Circle, choose one of your units, and it cannot be hit until end of battle. If your hand has 2 more cards, choose a card from your hand and discard it. So for Twin Buckler Dragon, it's a perfect guard for the Dragon Empire Nation. Like any other perfect guard in the Cardfight Vanguard trading card game, it features the same skill and activation. When used to guard with and discarding 1 card from your hand, you can block an enemy attack. But Twin Buckler also features an ability unique to all these standard format perfect guards. When used to guard with, while you have less than 2 cards in hand, you will not have to pay the usual discard 1 cost, making Twin Buckler a potential no-cost perfect guard in desperate last resort situations. The Great One, Blitz Order, Elementaria Sanctitude. Skills, first skill, Continuous Sentinel. You may only have up to 4 cards of Continuous Sentinel in a deck. Second skill, Continuous. You may only have 1 Elementaria Sanctitude in a deck. Third skill, if your opponent's Vanguard has triple drive, this ability can be played without paying the cost. Plays if it costs of, discard a card from your hand if your Vanguard is grade 3 or less. If the cost is paid, choose one of your units and it cannot be hit until end of battle. Remove this card. So for Elementaria Sanctitude, it's the Blitz Order version of the Perfect Guard. Like any other Perfect Guard in the Cardfight Vanguard trading card game, it features the same skill and activation. When played and paying the cost of discarding 1 card from your hand, you can block an enemy attack. But ideally, Elementaria Sanctitude is best played against opponents who play decks that specialize in having Vanguards of triple drive. For example, grade 4s or Vanguards who have their drive checks increased by skill or card effect. Against such opponents, Elementaria Sanctitude then can serve as a potential no-cost perfect guard. And alright, With that, the Grade 1 lineup is done. Next, let's get on with the deck's Grade 2 lineup. And now for the Grade 2 lineup. For the Grade 2s of this deck, we are playing 4 Grade 2 Ardor Hatchet Dragon, 4 Grade 2 Burning Horn Dragon, 4 Grade 2 Dragritter Bathura, and 2 Grade 2 Inscribing Bullet of Duststorm Baxter. The Grade 2 Ardor Hatchet Dragon, skills for skill continuous as a Guardian. If your soul has a card of Overlord in its card name, this unit gets plus 5,000 shield. And the second skill, action as a rear guard. If your opponent's Vanguard is a Grade 3 or greater, cost, retire this unit. If the cost is paid, choose a Grade 3 card of Overlord in its card name from your drop and put into your soul. So for Ardor Hatchet Dragon, a support card for the Dragonic Overlord series with its skills, the first skill, as long as the conditions of the first skill are met, your Ardor Hatchet Dragon deck can serve as a potential 10,000 point shield on its own. And the second skill, as long as the conditions of the second skill are met and you pay the cost, you'll be able to restock your soul with more cards to either Soul Blast with or to help you activate Dragonic Overlord, the end skill that requires to have a Dragonic Overlord in its soul to use its additional abilities. The Grade 2 Burning Horn Dragon, skills for skill auto. When this unit is placed on the rearguard circle, cost counterblast 1. If the cost is paid, look at the top 7 cards of your deck. Reveal up to 1 card of Overlord in its card name and put it into your hand and shuffle your deck. If you do not reveal a card, countercharge 1. Second skill, auto as a rear guard. When your Vanguard of Overlord in its card name attacks, this unit gets plus 5,000 power until end of turn. So for Burning Horn Dragon, another support card for the Dragonic Overlord series. With its skills, the first skill, just by calling Burning Horn to the rear guard and paying the cost, you have the chance to check the top 7 cards to your deck for an Overlord to add to your hand to serve as a potential Vanguard, rear guard, or any other purpose you wish to have an additional Overlord in your hand for. And the best part is, this first skill is refundable. In the off chance you fail to get any cards with the Burning Horn's first skill, you can then countercharge 1, thus refunding the counterblast you paid for the first skill. And the second skill, as long as you've got Burning Horn on the rear guard, whenever your Vanguard Overlord attacks, your rear guard Burning Horn gets plus 5,000 power. And the best part about this second skill is it's stackable. For the Dragonic Overlord series, specializes in restanding and attacking multiple times with the Vanguard. As long as you've met the conditions, whenever your Vanguard attacks, you can then keep stacking your Burning Horn Dragon with more power for every time your Vanguard attacks. The Grade 2 Dragritter Bathura, skill auto. When this card is discarded from hand during your battle phase, put this card into your soul, choose one of your opponent's back or rear guards and retire it. So for Bathura, a pretty good card to play in your Dragon Empire Nation decks for skill. Whenever she's used to discard during your battle phase, you can instead move her from your drop zone to the soul and then wipe out your opponent's field of rear guards, making her a good way to fill up your soul for later soul blast and to also clear your opponent's back row of rear guards to make it easier for you to either desolate their formation or to make it easier to last your next turn. The Grade 2 Inscribing Bullet of Duststorm Baxter, skills for skill continuous as a rear guard. During the battle, this unit is attacked by your opponent's unit other than the same columns as unit. This unit cannot be hit. Second skill, auto as a rear guard. When your opponent's rear guard in the same column as this unit is retired during your turn, choose one of your Vanguards and this unit gets plus 5,000 power until end of turn. So for Baxter, a pretty good card to play in your Dragon Empire Nation decks with its skills. The first skill, this first skill more or less serves like a pseudo resistibility against your opponents, for your opponent cannot target attack Baxter with any other cards besides the one that are in the same column as Baxter. So unless your opponent calls a card in the same column as Baxter to attack with, your Baxter is then safe from any other attacks. And the second skill, as long as the conditions of the second skill are met, you can then give power to not only your rearguard Baxter, but also to your Vanguard. And the best part about this second skill, it's stackable. For if you play a deck that specializes in retiring your opponent's rear guards, as long as you've got Baxter in the field when it happens, you can then continue to stack power onto not only Baxter, but to your Vanguard as well. And at that, we just about covered the deck's Grade 2 lineup. Next, let's get on with the deck's Grade 3 lineup. And now for the grade 3 lineup. For the grade 3s in this deck, we're playing 4 grade 3 Dragonic Overlords and 3 grade 3 Dragonic Overlord, the end. The grade 3 Dragonic Overlord. Its skills: first skill, continuous, as a Vanguard or rear guard. During the battle this unit attacked a rear guard, your opponent cannot call cards from their hand to the Guardian Circle. And second skill, auto, as a Vanguard, once per turn. When this unit's attack hits, counterblast 1 and discard a card from your hand. If the cost has been paid, you can stand this unit and it gets drive -1 until end of turn. So for Dragonic Overlord, it's one of the main grade 3s to play in this deck. Its first skill, your Vanguard or rear guard Overlord, when attacking an opponent's rear guard, they cannot guard cards from their hand. So for this first skill, as long as you attack an opponent's rear guard in the front row with Dragonic Overlord, it'll be almost an unstoppable attack since your opponent cannot guard with their cards from their hand. And the second skill for your Vanguard Overlord, just by landing a successful attack on either your opponent's Vanguard or rear guard, by paying the cost, you can restand your Vanguard Overlord again for another attack at the additional cost of reducing your drive check by 1. So for this second skill, it's more or less like a basic restanding skill for the Overlord series. And the best part is this second skill is comboable with the first skill. So it immediately says you have to land a successful attack. So by comboing the first skill, where you can make a almost absolute on-hit skill on your opponent's rear guard, you'll be able to guarantee your Vanguard Overlord to restand by comboing the two skills. And now the grade 3 Dragonic Overlord, the end. But since I already mentioned this card's skills and effects during the right deck explanations, there's no need to get any further into it, so skipping ahead. And with that, we just about covered the deck's grade 3 lineup. Now for the trigger lineup. And now for the trigger lineup. For the triggers of this deck, we are playing 1 grade 0 Dragon DD King of Resurgence, Dragritter, over trigger. 4 grade 0 Burning Flail Dragon, critical trigger. 4 grade 0 Stealth Dragon, Madowazu, critical trigger. 3 grade 0 Flare Veil Dragon, draw trigger. 2 Stealth Fiend Amavira, heal trigger. And 2 grade 0 Cure Flare Draco Kid, heal trigger. The grade 0 Dragon DD King of Resurgence, Dragritter, over trigger. Skill, trigger, additional effect, choose from your Vanguards and stand it. So for Dragritter, it's a over trigger for the Dragon Empire Nation. Like any other over trigger in the Cardfight Vanguard trading card game, it features the same skill and activation. When revealed during a drive check or damage check, you can get 100 million power and draw a card, but it also features an ability unique to it alone. When revealed during a drive check on your turn, you can restand your Vanguard for another attack. The grade 0 Burning Flail Dragon, critical trigger, skill, auto, as a rear guard. At the end of the battle, this unit boosted. Cost, put this unit into your soul. If the cost is paid, choose from your units, and it gets plus 2000 power until end of turn. So for Burning Flail Dragon, a powerful critical trigger to play in your Dragon Empire Nation decks. For its skill, after boosting the attack, regardless if the attack hits or not, as long as you don't mind moving Burning Flare from your rear guard into your soul, not only can you build up your soul for later Soul Blast, but to also give your remaining attackers in the field, Vanguard or rear guard, a little extra power to work with. The grade 0 Flare Veil Dragon, draw trigger. Skill, continuous, as a guardian. If your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, this unit gets plus 5000 shield. So for Flare Veil Dragon, a powerful draw trigger to play in your Dragon Empire Nation decks. For its skill, when used to guard with while the conditions of its skill are met, you can turn your Flare Veil Dragon into a potential 10,000 point shield on its own. The grade 0, Stealth Fiend Amavira, heal trigger, skill, auto. When this unit is put in the Guardian Circle, if your opponent's attacking unit has attacked 2 or more times this turn, this unit gets plus 15,000 shield until end of battle. Active if it's battle in this second attack this turn or more. So for Amavira, a powerful heal trigger to play in your Dragon Empire Nation decks for its skill. When used to guard with while the conditions of the skill are met, you can turn your Amavira into a potential 25,000 point shield on her own. Ideally, Amavira is a counter heal, best played against opponents who play decks that specialize in restanding and attacking multiple times their units, either Vanguard or Rear Guard. And the grade 0, Pure Flare Draco Kit, heal trigger, skill, auto. When this unit is put in the Guardian Circle, if the attacking unit's critical is 2 or greater and its critical is increased by a non-trigger effect ability, or its original critical is 2 or greater, this unit gets plus 15,000 shield until end of battle. So for Cure Flare Draco Kit, another powerful heal trigger to play in your Dragon Empire Nation decks. For its skill, when used to guard with while the conditions of its skill are met, you can turn Cure Flare Draco Kit into a potential 25,000 point shield on its own. Ideally, Cure Flare is a counter heal best played against opponents who play decks that specialize in increasing their attacking unit's critical, either their Vanguard or Rear Guard, by skill or card effect. And with that, we just about covered the deck's trigger lineup. For the triggers we are playing in this deck, we are playing 1 over trigger, 8 critical triggers, 3 draw triggers, and 4 heal triggers. And now, after having just explained the deck's build and card effects, next let's get on to explaining the deck's main playstyle. So for the main playstyle of this deck, first you just normally ride from your ride line from grade 0 to 3. And as long as the conditions of the skills are met, try to then call a Artifact Dragon to use its skill to place an Overlord into your Vanguard Soul to then activate the end's additional abilities. Then for the rest of your Rear Guard, first you try to secure at least 1 Hephaestio Dragon in the center column behind your Vanguard. Then for the front or back row, try to secure at least 1 Baxter in either left or on the left or right columns. And then just call your other Rear Guards. And then before you go to the battle phase, try to at least secure 1 or 2 Bathuras in your hand. Then when it's time to attack, first you attack your Vanguard. And then when it's time to use the end skill to restand, discard the 2 Bathuras in the hand to restand your Vanguard. Using Bathura's skill to move into the soul to retire your opponent's Rear Guards in the back row. Try to retire Rear Guards that are in the same column as Baxter, thus allowing you to add power to Baxter and your Overlord, and then activating Hephaestio's skill to Soul Blast the Bathuras you just added to the soul to again activate Hephaestio's skill to not only retire another Rear Guard, this time on their front row, but to give your Vanguard more power. And that's pretty much the main playstyle. So first, ride to grade 3 Overlord, use Arda Hatred's skill to secure a classic Overlord in the soul. Then your Rear Guard, try to have at least 1 or 2 Baxters. And in the center column, try to have at least an Hephaestio Dragon. And in your hand, at least 1 or 2 Bathuras. When it's time to go to the battle phase, attack your Vanguard Overlord. Use its skill to discard 2 cards, make it at least 1 or 2 Bathuras. Restand your Vanguard, using Bathura's skill to retire your opponent's back row Rear Guards and move into the soul. Then activating Baxter's skill to power up itself and your Vanguard when a Rear Guard in the same column is retired. Then using Hephaestio's skill to Soul Blast the 2 Bathuras you just entered the soul to not only retire another Rear Guard, but to also power up your Vanguard. And if it's possible, use Hephaestio's skill to retire a Rear Guard in the same column as Baxter. And again, stacking more power to Baxter and your Vanguard Overlord. And at that, we just about covered the deck's main playstyle. And of that's just about all the time we have for today. First I want to say is thank you to the viewers watching today's video, and to please stay tuned for more videos I plan to upload again in the near future. And I also hope you all show support by liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing to my videos and channel. And of that I say goodbye and